waivers? Do we need to sign some waivers? I know. Okay, where are you at? Welcome to episode 4 of the Success Society. I'm your host, Heather Suchma, and actually this is going to be your host. His name is Eric Smith, and I'm going to kind of let him lead the show today. In 2 episodes ago, I think I talked about, we're talking about starting your own business, specifically leaving a big salon and going off on your own to open your own salon in a salon suite environment or otherwise. And having a CPA or a numbers guy is very, very, very important. And I told you, you remember I rubbed the couch and I said maybe I'll have a guest on, and here he is. So
I was invited to bring wine today because it sounds like it's a tradition.
A wine and business show? Yeah,
Sounds
absolutely.
like it's a tradition.
So I wanted to bring
good.
something that people hadn't probably had. So I brought a Colorado Pinot Noir. It's called Jackrabbit Hill Farm. It's a 2012 Pinot from Colorado, and I don't know what it costs. It's probably $30 a bottle.
Where'd you get it?
In Colorado, actually. So it's fairly difficult to find.
Uh-huh.
And it's quite nice. It's as Pinots go that aren't from Colorado or aren't from California or Oregon, it's quite good. And
So
I
I'm
enjoy it.
totally going to insult you with my Trader Joe's $2.99 wine, but it is really, really good. I did give you a nice wine as well, but I think you have to try all ends of the spectrum.
Oh yeah.
And for a nice, easy drinking wine, it's good. But this is awesome.
Friend,
Nice.
just to introduce myself, my name is Eric Smith. I'm a CPA. I spent about 8 years with McGladrey, which is now RSM, and also.
Can you say those names? Do we need to black that out?
Oh,
Y'all have good relationships.
I can say that.
You're fine. Just don't say where I'm from.
Oh, no, I don't know where you're from.
Okay.
Probably places that people haven't heard of who are watching this anyway, but big regional accounting firms, international accounting firms. And recently left a local firm to start my own practice, which is something I've wanted to do for several years. And there's a guy who cuts my hair that is a mutual friend of ours, and introduced me to Heather. So she said, well, I have this thing that I do that's YouTube channel, and talk to people who are starting a business as a stylist. So would you like to talk to them about setting up their business and things that they need to do to comply with tax law and things like that? And I said, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, because first of all, I love business. That's why I became a CPA to begin with, and I like helping people to find their own success. So that's me. So I'm guessing that if you're watching this, you're probably already a stylist. You're probably considering leaving to start your own salon or
Your own
studio.
business. And even if you're not now, the whole point is pay attention or save this, flag this for one day, because I never thought that I was going to, when I was in love with what I was doing and where I was at, I never thought about this kind of stuff. But to have this information or to have this in my toolbox for later, I think it's very smart. So even if you're not in the position now, save it for later.
Yeah, when I was in college, I thought that one day I would be a partner at PwC.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to PwC and realized I hated PwC. So now I am starting my own firm and really enjoy that.
And so how long have you been out on your own now?
It's been 2 months. So what I'm doing now is what I've done for 15 years, but now I'm doing it for myself. So I'm really excited about that.
And there's a lot of parallels with you, and that's why I was so excited to have you on, because like stylists that are about to leave, you left a huge firm. All those fears, all of the anxiety that you have going out on your own, the no-compete contracts, all of that, he's dealing with the exact same things. So not only is he a CPA and can help with the starting of a business, but he also has a personal story to share And he's also followed a stylist, the common bond between us. He saw this guy who does his hair whenever he worked at a big salon. That guy left the big salon, went off on his own, and he, as a guest, followed, as he went. So there's a lot of good stuff happening here. So sorry I jumped in.
No, not at all. I appreciate that. The conversation is good.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. This guy's cut my hair for 10 years. He was with a major salon, then he left, and I called them, and they said, he's not here. You want to schedule an appointment? I said, yes, I do. I'll call him. So,
good answer. Good answer.
So that's kind of how that happened, and that'll happen with a lot of your clients, I'm sure. And we were talking about this the other day. People do business with people. They don't do business with companies. So it's not about your relationship with a company. Sure, perhaps you buy cable from AT&T because AT&T has cable. You don't have the opportunity to develop a relationship with someone who sells cable, or you may get it from them. But for personal services, you tend to develop personal relationships, and just like your clients will rely on your personal relationship and appreciate having your knowledge of their own personalities and their own their hair issues and things that they like and what they don't like. They value that. Just like my clients value that I know about their business and know what they do and have knowledge of ways to help them. So personal relationships are important, but as you're preparing to leave, you've got personal relationships with people that you've worked with, and you've also got business relationships with companies that you've worked for. So the business relationship probably has resulted in a non-compete.
Yes, let's talk about that.
That's something we should talk about. So I think the most important thing is to know, with respect to a non-compete, is to know the terms of the non-compete.
And everybody has the right to a copy of anything that they've signed.
Correct. So if they're going to, if anyone's going to sue you based on a document that you signed, then they have to have a copy of the document with your signature on it, and you need a copy of that as well. So if you don't have a copy of your non-compete, ask for it. If you're about to sign a non-compete, keep it so that you have it handy. But knowing the terms of it and making sure that you comply with it is very important. I would always try to honor the terms of your agreement. If it says no competition within 4 miles for 2 years or whatever the common terms are, they're generally going to have a time period, a location restriction, and there may be other certain restrictions about clients that you can and can't contact, or specifically identifying the clients some way that you are not allowed to solicit. So those are the things that you have to work around. So working around that is, to the extent you can work around that well, you can find more success. You can find ways to talk to people that you might not have otherwise talked to them. But it's important to honor your agreements, and not just for the sake of honoring your agreement, which is, I think, a good reason in and of itself, but you can be sued, and there can be...
It's a big deal, and companies do go after stylists. It's a real thing, but as Eric was saying, you really have to be aware of what your paperwork says. Just because the company is saying one thing, that's fine, and listen to them, but if you have a copy of what you've signed, make sure you fully understand what you've signed, because they may be saying something, but that may not hold true to what you've agreed to. So just be aware.
Yeah. So that said, to the extent you can comply with a non-compete agreement, keep your personal relationships. Those relationships are important, and they'll help you in the future. The firm that I just left, I still have a non-compete agreement with them. Very, very nice people. I was actually in their office a couple of days ago. I was across the street from their office getting apples at H-E-B, and said, you know what, let me bring them some apples and say hello and visit. And I dropped in and dropped off a bunch of apples and said hello and walked around. And they actually have referred work to me that wasn't a good fit for their firm. They said, you know what, Eric would be a good person for you to know, and they've referred work to me. So you may find that people who you've worked with before send work to you your way.
You won't. not at the front desk. Maybe, I think there's going to be people that you work with who will definitely help you out, but it's a much different environment. I don't think, I've stopped in at past places that I've worked in the beginning especially, it's a bit frowned upon because they don't want you going in and popping your head in and trying to, grab clients. But, I think you have to stick to doing what's right and stick to your morals. And if you want to pop in and say hi, I think if you haven't done anything wrong, then there should be no reason not to pop in and bring the front desk apples. Just don't be sad if they're not warm and welcoming right away. A year or two later maybe, but I think it's great you've been in a, I just think companies could be different. But keeping good relationships and not burning bridges is very important.
Yeah, she is definitely going to know more about culture for salons and hairstylists than I will for sure. But in the public accounting world, we're pretty friendly. We maintain good relationships. Often after leaving, I'm doing some work right now with a firm that I worked for when I was in college 15 years ago. And they called me a week ago and said, "Hey, you want to help us out on a client? We've got something that's fairly complex, and wanted to run some things by you. You want to work with us?" Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
If that doesn't happen in the salon world, then that's unfortunate. But definitely keep personal relationships. I think they're important. Once you decide to leave and you've got your non-compete, you know the terms. They say what are the three most important things in real estate? Location, location, location.
Mm-hmm.
So where will your business live is that's an important question to answer. So when I was starting my own practice, I spent several months kind of looking around, trying to decide what I was going to do, if I was going to find some old space in the Heights and sort of renovate it a little bit and make it into an office, or if I was going to sort of shack up with another friend of mine's business and work with them. Ultimately, I decided I found an executive suite that was kind of made for what I do, and it had everything I needed. So I said, well, this, while the price per square foot is perhaps more than these other places, if you look
on a monthly basis,
yeah,
right? Mm-hmm.
if you look at everything it includes and everything it allows me to do, it's well worth it. So I just thought that was a fantastic benefit to have, and it lets me be a CPA instead of being all the other things that go into running an office.
Exactly. When I think stylists, when they decide to go out on their own, those are the questions they're going to have to ask themselves. Where do I want to go work next? If I want to work for myself, do I want to work in a salon suite environment? Do I want to work in an open concept salon where you just lease a chair? Or do I want to open my own storefront?
So there's this concept called, and I think back to economics in college, called comparative advantage. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a comparative advantage economically at being a CPA. I can do it well. I can do it well enough to make a profit at it, and better than most other people in the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that my services are valuable. So a stylist can cut hair better than other people in the market. They've got this economic comparative advantage at cutting hair, and that's why it's better for them to cut hair than to cut grass. So do you want to cut hair where you have an economic comparative advantage and you can be profitable and you can focus your energy on this area where you can make money, or do you want to have less energy to focus on that and focus on other things? So I think that economic concept to me is it's important. So I do what I'm good at, and I enjoy it more that way. So.
Yes, it's important. I think you realize what you're good at, you realize what you're not. If you're not good at taxes, you hire a CPA. You don't try to do the taxes yourself and go to jail, okay? And in salon suites, if you don't want to run your own business and have your own storefront, which is a very, very different thing, then you can lease from an environment that has suites, or you lease a chair in an open air environment if that's more your speed. But to kind of, I don't know if now's a good time to talk about, but the cost, I was talking to Steve, of course we do the construction and build out of a lot of our locations, so we're very familiar with the cost of getting locations up and going and constructed. And let's say, I would think if I were a stylist and I wanted to go out on my own and I wanted to have a smaller space, but enough to have a couple of chairs, let's say 1,000 square feet of retail space, for build out with permits, architecture, engineering, all of that. Stephen estimated roughly between 60, no problem, between 60 and 80,000. So think about that when you think about, well, I can afford the rent on this place, you know, on this 1,000 square feet, which may be, let's call it 3,000 a month. If you can afford 3,000 a month, that's cool, but how are you going to get it set up for yourself? So think about the build out costs if you are starting a small space yourself, if you want a retail space, window front. Also, you have to think about utilities, water, electricity, internet, dumpster, pest control. That's going to be 500 plus a month, and those are things that you don't even think about. Stephen mentioned pest control. I wouldn't even think about that, but all of these costs that you don't necessarily think about to starting a business, and if you're not familiar with any of this, that takes you away. We are artists as hairstylists, and so if what you're really passionate about is art, then be passionate about art and find a place that really gives you an environment to succeed without having you be a landlord to yourself, basically. So, okay.
Fair enough, fair
Yes.
enough. That's very good points. So now that you've got a place, you're thinking through these steps, you've decided to leave, you found a place to put your business. You might ask, so is it good for me to go in business with myself, by myself? Do I want a partner? What do I do? So I've worked with a few different stylists, and different people have done different things, but most people that are stylists, that are colorists, that are going out on their own, are in business by themselves. What some people do in order to then provide a range of services, if you're a stylist and you want to work with a colorist, rent a space together. I know at least a couple of stylists who are doing this. They're renting a space together. They can provide a full range of services to their clients, and they don't have to depend on their partner to produce this, the same amount of revenue that they do. They share a space. They share the costs associated with the space, and the revenue that they earn, the clients that they bring in and develop are theirs. But they're able to share costs, and that's beneficial. If you don't have someone that you want to work with, there are plenty of people that are starting single chair rooms, right? It's like a
Definitely, all the time people work, and even if I was a color specialist, so I didn't cut at all, but I knew wherever I was going I could create a relationship with a hair cutter that I trusted. And the first place I left, when I left my big salon, I did find a cutter. He actually did all services, but he was, great at respecting my business and, respected my clients and took care of the cuts and blow dries for them, and I was able to continue doing what I did best. I actually left my salon with another color specialist. So we left and shared a space together. We shared the cost of the space, and we actually shared the initial inventory buy-in of all the color. But other than that, from that point on, everything that we used and everything that we did, we kept completely separate. We kept our businesses separate. And above all else, I recommend that you keep your business separate. No matter how close you are with somebody, it just makes sense. You can share the initial startup costs, but other than that, keep your business separate.
Yeah, so the guy that cuts my hair, as a matter of fact, when he started out, I think he had just one chair, and I think the first time I was there, maybe the second or third time I was there, he said, we should do some color. Okay, I had never done color before, and we were going through the choices, and he wanted some advice on color from someone who did color, and walked down the hall to a friend of his and said, hey, can you answer a couple of questions for us? And super friendly. Everybody's, in these communities generally are super friendly, and I find that stylists, you all know each other.
It's a very, very, very small world. Yes.
So back to keeping relationships, that's important.
Absolutely.
Then a few weeks later I showed up again, and lo and behold, those two people are now sharing a space and delivering cuts and colors at the same time in the same space, which is great. So
yes, collaboration's a beautiful thing with
super
artists.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where were we? I sidetracked us always.
I think we were talking about whether or not you'll be in business with yourself or with someone else. Talking
Yes,
about
you'll be in business with yourself, but you may share space with somebody.
you
and
may
share
share
some
space.
costs. Yes.
And that's a great thing to do. If you get into bigger projects, you want to develop your own properties or anything like that. If you need to raise a lot of capital, or if there's other reasons that you need to take on a partner, then that's something that can be talked about. Talk to your CPA, talk to your attorney about forming a partnership and the partnership agreements and things like that. But going out on your own as a stylist, it's generally not something that
no, you may take out a very small bank loan, but you don't need an investor or a partner in any way to get a business going like this. We can go over some of the costs, startup costs for leasing a suite somewhere later, but you don't need an investor for that or a partner. So be smart and don't make rash decisions out of fear up front.
And the next question that I get often is, well, how will I get paid, and how do I set my rates? What is my rate going to be? And right, so you're the boss, and it's charge the market rate. People aren't going to be incredibly price sensitive when they get a haircut. It's you're not buying a car, you're buying a personal service. You buy it repeatedly. You buy it from someone that you know and that you like, and you buy it from them because you know and you like them. And when this person that you know and like says, my services are going to be $55 for a cut or $150 for a color, then you just go.
How much are your cuts?
I don't know.
You just swipe the card?
Yeah.
I do the same thing. Who knows? Just swipe the card, tear up the receipt.
Honestly,
Okay.
I don't know.
That's very fair, but it doesn't matter to you. You trust him. You know he's reasonably priced. He's not going to charge you an insane amount, and that's excellent. That's a very excellent point. You see, not everybody is super focused on the price. The price does matter, but once you're in a reasonable range and you're providing more in value than you're charging, which is always the point, nobody cares about the cost. So.
Right. So when I walk in and I see my friend, I think of him as my friend. Hey, how are you doing? Oh, things are great, and that's what it's about. You have a good relationship, and I've known him for 10 years, and he's been cutting my hair, and now that I'm starting my own practice, maybe he's going to be my client. I can't say officially, but
Come on.
but relationships are important. I think that's the big thing. If you try to beat the market rates by pushing try to drive business by pushing your price down, eventually you're going to have to raise your price, which is going to shock your clientele, or you're going to have to concede that you're going to keep the same clientele happy at the same price and just settle for this lower amount of income.
It's never a good idea, and the only reason that people lower their prices when they leave is out of fear. And I don't think decisions ever should be made out of fear. You make decisions based on your values, not out of fear, ever. If you make decisions based out of fear, you're making a bad decision. So, for example, I know some places when a stylist leaves, especially a big producer, sometimes the salons will offer free services to their guests for a certain amount of time in order for that guest to find a new stylist and to kind of keep them in the salon. And so a lot of stylists are dealing with that. Now, let me ask you, as a customer, would you have said, for a free cut, maybe I'll go see somebody else?
I don't think so. No, I don't even think I would have taken advantage of a free cut to see someone else.
Okay.
So, and it's been so many years since anyone else has cut my hair. As a matter of fact, the guy that recently moved in with the guy who cuts my hair in the same spot, the colorist, he colored my hair not long ago, and it was the first time in 10 years that anybody else but this person had touched my hair for any kind of compensation. And I had a lot of confidence because this is the guy who cut my hair went to ask advice.
Right, so
and,
obviously.
Yeah. And then they moved in together, so they're friends, and,
Yeah.
and you know what, I said, this guy cuts hair and this guy colors hair, they work together. I want to show the love around a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I had a great experience with him. Really good stuff.
So don't undercut your prices. That's the point. Don't lower your prices. You may have to suck it up for a little while. If some guests end up leaving and going for the free stuff for a while, It's going to weed out some people, possibly. And then the ones who may have been enticed by the free are going to miss you, and they're going to come back and find you. So be prepared for that. Be prepared to hang on. This is a long-term play, so you have to be prepared for the ups and downs. You work in a commission salon now, so you're used to ups and downs anyway. So it's the long game. So, but good guests and the ones that you built true relationships with are going to find you. If my hairstylist Chris left and their salon offered me a free service, I'd say no. I'm finding Chris. I'm gonna go. I'll hunt him down and I'll melt my credit card somewhere else. Thank you. Goodbye. So.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the colorist, as he was running through it, I said, no, don't discount anything. Charge me a real rate, because he was real friendly. I said, I know he's gonna try to give me a discount. And I said, I just want to pay his regular rate and be fair and let him know I appreciate his services. And he did it anyway. He marked it down. And I just added it to the gratuity.
To the tip, right.
And said thank you, but I really appreciate your service. You did a really good job, and I'm going to pay you what your normal rate is, even if you don't charge it. So
yeah.
And he was appreciative of that. But yeah, charge what you're worth, and a lot of people perceive value from that. A lot of people are less likely to. I would be much less likely to go to a Supercuts. I mean, I would not go to Supercuts, but I would be much less likely to go anywhere that was willing to price themselves down.
Exactly.
Just because if they don't value themselves and they don't value their own services, then, it
doesn't feel very trusting. It doesn't feel like you should trust to go there. Yeah. So don't undercut yourself, and be prepared on a regular basis to increase your prices, whether it's once a year, once every 2 years, just by a small percent. You can give your clients a heads up. 6 months in advance, let them know my colors are going from 200 to 210, whatever the case may be. Let them know, plan for it, and your costs are going to be going up wherever you're leasing or whatever you're doing. Your business costs are going to go up, and be prepared, and that gets passed on to the guest, but you continue to offer better and better and better services for them, so they're happy to pay whatever that may be.
Right. Enjoy that. And speaking of enjoying that, enjoy the business. Enjoy being in business for yourself. We talked about this the other day, that I wanted to talk not just about tax things. We haven't talked about any tax issues yet. Talked about business issues, business decision making. Where are you going to live? Where are you going to have your business? How do you go through this transition, so on and so forth. But taking some time for yourself, making yourself feel successful. You're starting a business, so it's the day you start a business is probably not the best day to go out and buy a boat or an airplane, but it's probably a great day to go to the gym, or to cook yourself a nice meal at home, or to do something that you find fun. I go to the gym. I go to the gym 5 and 6 days a week. I've got a trainer that I love. You can call me for his name if you're interested. But fantastic release of tension, and I get up and do it at 6 in the morning. Keeps me energetic, keeps me focused. It's a good it's a good thing for me to do. You can make this excuse that you're starting a business for yourself and you don't have any time for yourself, and that's going to make you feel like instead of starting a business, you just started a new job. And nobody wants a job. People want a business, right? So you're already leaving a job. Don't give yourself another one. So
self-care is very, 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 very important. I'm a huge advocate of that. It's in my DNA to have to take care of myself. That's how I find my happy, and I will fight for my own happiness and my own health. It's just natural for me. I think it's unnatural for some people, but I think it's very important to have that sense of balance. And it's not always perfect. I may miss the gym sometimes, but I know that in order for me to be centered, I have to have alone time at some point in my day. And the more stressed out I get, the more alone time I know I need. And so I make that alone time so that I have that balance. So, and like I've said in previous videos, it's not about a 50-50 split. It's not 50 family, 50 work. It's going to constantly change. Your pie chart's going to move around all the time, but it's about being 100% present wherever you are at that time. Even if your family time sometimes is only 10% because you're busting your ass right now with work, make sure that 10% that you're with your family, you are giving your all, and that's worth everything. So balance is super important, but not in the typical way that you think balance 50-50 is BS.
You're gonna work hard. That's just gonna be the case. You have huge upside potential, and it's you're starting your own business in the United States. Whatever you think about the election, I still think I'm biased. I live here. I'm an American. I still think America, the United States of America, is the best place in the world to start a business.
Of course it is.
And it's you have unlimited upside potential. You can hire stylists. You keep bringing clients in. You have enough capacity. You can go find a stylist and you can hire them just like another salon does. You can give them commissions. It's just something that can continue to grow, and that's the one great thing about providing personal services. It's very scalable. It's something that you can really do well with and find tons of success, which is a great thing to look forward to.
Absolutely.
So I know we're going to segue into tax stuff at some point.
Uh-oh. Yes. No, just kidding. I don't know anything about taxes. I'm just kidding. But I'll let you keep.
So do you want to do it?
Flying the plane, huh? He's a pilot as well. I got a little pet in there. Yeah. But you go ahead.
Okay. So to talk about tax things, I guess the first question is, your structure. How do you want to structure your business? How do you set it up?
Because people don't know, that's what's scary to them. LLC, DBA, what's the difference between the two, and how do I do it?
So,
taking notes, everyone? Yeah.
If you cut someone's ear off, which I know you would never do.
Well, never say never. Things happen.
Someone has actually cut my ear, but it wasn't my
Not
current.
off.
Not off.
That's good.
I still have an ear.
That's good.
And I didn't sue them, so your liability is going to be your risk for things like that is probably fairly small, but with a DBA you have no limited liability protection.
So you recommend LLC?
I would
is the way to
definitely
go.
form an LLC. It's a one-time cost to set it up. The state filing fee is $300. You're going to pay your CPA something, probably another $500. You could spend anywhere from, say, $750 to $5,000 if you want to go to an attorney and have a complex agreement drawn up.
For an LLC?
Well, an LLC can be treated as a partnership as well. So you can have multiple members in an LLC.
Okay.
And you can have an agreement between those members that needs to be sorted out, negotiated, discussed with attorneys and so on.
But that's not what we're recommending to people to begin with.
Right.
Get your own LLC. They'll get their own LLC. You cover half the rent, they cover half the rent. That's it.
Exactly. You'll spend.
That's my recommendation.
That's what I would, as a stylist starting a small small salon.
Yeah.
I'd say, it's just going to be you. You're not going to have a partner. You don't want a partner. You're adding complexity to something that you don't need to be complex. So you'll spend $1,000, including filing fees, to set this up. If you pay someone who's expensive to do it, and they'll do a good job, and you have to pick a name. Choosing a name for your salon can sometimes be a challenge because it can't be similar to another existing company's name. So if your name is Fluffy Bunny Incorporated and someone else's name is Fluffy Bunny Liquor Store, then
You're probably gonna have a problem. Google it. Google stuff before you apply for an LLC, and you can call. Can't you call the Secretary of State?
There's actually a
Is that
website.
right?
You can Google if I'm assuming most people are in the state of Texas, but every state has a Secretary of State that keeps a
I got
registry.
that right. Is that what we're supposed to call? Okay, good.
Right.
That's good.
I assume that most of your viewers are going to be in Texas.
For now.
For now, perhaps.
No, sorry.
Well, I guess you've got places all over. You're in what, Denver?
Not yet, but we're going to Denver. So yes.
Yeah. So if you Google the name of your state, say you're in Texas, entity search. So if you Google Texas entity search, you can, like the first or second link will be search for taxable entities, and it's the Secretary of State's website. and you click the link, and it'll ask you, you know, do you want to search by tax ID number? Do you want to search by name? And you'll search by name, and you can find every business that is registered in the state of Texas, what their status is, if they're currently active in doing business, if they forfeit their charter for failure to pay taxes or whatever it is. You can find that information. So if you Google Texas Entity Search and search for Eric S. Smith, CPA, PLLC, or just Eric S. Smith, you know, my name comes up with a CPA behind it, and there's a dentist in Dallas that comes up. But you can discover pretty quickly if your name is available.
And I have to be a total buzzkill with the whole naming your business. When you're moving to a salon suite environment, or if you're not opening, or if you don't have future plans at this point of opening a big salon, it's not really that big of a deal. It's very romantic, and it's very exciting, and it's very fun. It's one of the things that I was so excited about. But in the end, my stylist, no matter what, they didn't come to 11 Studio. They came to Heather. So you need to be, in my personal opinion, when you're branding your social media and you're getting people to follow you, don't make a social media that says 11 Studio. Your social media should be Heather Suchma, not 11 Studio. Nobody knows who 11 Studio is. They're coming in the door to find Heather Suchma. So find a great name. If your name's taken, it sucks a little bit and you may have to compromise. It's not that big of a deal. You are your brand. You are what you're selling. So it's not that big of a deal if a name is taken. Brand yourself by who you are, because you can take your brand, your personal brand, and do a million things with it. So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric S. Smith, you obviously understand that.
Eric S. Smith, CPA, PLLC.
Right.
That's the name of my company. And I agree with her 100%. If you're Verizon and you have $1 million to spend making sure that everyone knows the name Verizon, then that's great. But if I didn't tell you that Verizon was a phone company and you had never heard of them before, then you wouldn't know. So make the name simple.
But people are going to know you by your name. They're going to walk in the door not asking for a studio name. They're going to ask for you.
Where's Joe?
Don't stress out over that. Okay, so getting an LLC, pick a name, search it before you spend all this time going back and forth, getting accepted or denied. Do your upfront research. Okay?
That's it.
That's it?
Well,
Okay.
as far as forming an entity.
LLC, okay.
As far as forming an entity, we don't need to complicate the entity. If you want a partnership, or if you want to form a corporation, if you want to talk about all those issues, that's beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about today. It's definitely something that can be talked about, but I don't think it's beyond the scope of what you need to do as a stylist. You want a simple structure. You want to keep your costs down. You want to charge a good market rate and be profitable. So yeah, I don't think we need to talk a whole lot more about
Excellent.
LLC formation.
Okay, so then taxes.
So you're currently an employee somewhere, which means with every check, the
Taxes are taken out.
taxes are withheld. So there's several different types of taxes that are withheld. If you've ever looked at your pay stub, there's employment taxes, the FICA, Medicare, and so on and so forth. There's also federal income taxes. So federal income taxes is the biggest number, and you know, depending on your income level, you may pay nothing in federal taxes, or you may pay as much as 43%. So talk to your CPA, talk to your tax advisor about how much to withhold or to reserve for your taxes that should be paid in quarterly. So every quarter, there's a little voucher, or you can pay it online. You can go to irs.gov/directpay actually, and pay online. And there's no fee for doing that. You can do it every quarter, and it's a very simple process. But figuring out how much you've earned and making an appropriate payment is something you should probably talk to your CPA about. I can't advise anyone through the camera, you should withhold 25% for yourself and set it aside.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to say. In your first year, your income might be really low. Maybe you're in a 15% effective rate. and it just depends. But yes, you will need to pay federal income taxes, and you should pay quarterly. If you don't pay quarterly, there's underpayment penalty that would apply. The rates are really low, so some people choose not to pay quarterly because the rates are fairly low.
But then you get that big hit at the end of the year, and nobody's prepared for that. I do not recommend that.
So I wouldn't suggest it unless you're reserving cash and you're familiar with what's going on, and or if if maybe you're not reserving cash,
Most
but
hair still.
probably not.
Just pay it quarterly, but having a good accountant, good CPA is super important. Steven was really smart, knew all this stuff, and so he was taking care of our quarterly taxes. He was doing mine and my friends, my suite mates,
nice.
so that worked out really well. But we're going to link up all of Eric's information. He's local here to Houston, so he can help out all of you Houstonites. And can you help people who are not in the Houston area as well?
I can. I've worked with clients in Hawaii, Maine, California, Utah, all over the country.
Perfect.
One of my favorite clients is in California, and I've done state tax work in all states that I can think of that have a state income tax. So I'm happy to help anyone who wants to give me a call.
Excellent.
Chat on the phone.
I think it's really important if you don't understand something. Nothing really scares me that much because I know there's somebody smarter than me in whatever it may be that'll help me figure out what I need, and I'll get it taken care of. So.
You don't have to be all things.
No.
Be a hairstylist.
Exactly.
And be good at it.
Right.
So.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that's great. So how are you going to be taxed? And that depends. So an LLC can be taxed in a number of ways. So it can be treated as a corporation, or it can be treated as a partnership. It can be treated a number of different ways. It gets to choose. So you get to choose for the LLC, basically. So the story that I like to tell is, and most people that are watching might be too young to remember Pretty Woman. Did you see Pretty Woman?
We're not? Of course.
Okay.
If you haven't seen Pretty Woman, turn it off and go away. Watch it now.
Okay. So yeah, go watch Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
There's this scene where Richard Gere is sitting in the Lotus Esprit Turbo, and Julia Roberts is kind of leaning in the window, selling her services, and he
Like
says,
a good businesswoman.
he says, "Well, what's your name?" And she says, "What do you want it to be?" So right there, she's saying, "I'm an LLC. I can be whatever you want me to be."
That's funny. Excellent.
So
That was the best.
so you can choose to be treated as a corporation if you like. You can choose to be a partnership if you have a partner. The default for an LLC that has only one owner is that it's disregarded as a separate entity. So all of its income would be treated as your income personally, but you still have limited liability protection. So that income would be reported on your personal tax return. You still enjoy limited liability protection. You still get to use the name of your LLC as you're doing business, but it simplifies the tax reporting. The benefit, there's a potential benefit to forming an S corporation, in that
S corps.
part of the taxes that are withdrawn from your paycheck every week now are employment taxes, and you currently pay half of them. So if you look at the FICA and Medicare on your paycheck, that's the half that you pay. If you double that, that's what you're going to be paying based on the same amount of income as as a sole proprietor running an LLC, because you're paying both halves. You're paying the employee's half and you're paying the employer's half. As an employee, those taxes get split between the employee and the employer.
So an S corp makes you an employee of your business?
That's the trick.
So
So when you're an S corp, when your LLC decides to be an S corp, or when you decide that your LLC is going to be an S corp, the income that flows to you from the S corp is no longer subject to self-employment tax. So the trick is that the reason that happens is that you're an employee of your S corp. So once you have an income level that justifies it, you're required to actually pay yourself a salary. So you'll get a W-2 from your S corp, just like you would get a W-2 from the salon where you're working. It will have withholding on it and so on and so forth. The S corp will have to file its own tax return, will have to file a W-2, and it will have to make these payments of of withholding taxes. But the trick is you pay a reasonable salary. You don't pay all of the income out as salary. So what is a reasonable salary? So if your S Corp has $200,000 of income, then what's your reasonable salary? How do you decide? So document the reasons that you would decide. What does a stylist make? What does a typical stylist make? What are you doing? You're probably being a stylist. So if you look at typical compensation for a stylist, given your years of experience, it's probably going to fall in the sub $50,000 range.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
If you, not at, I'm not saying look at every stylist at the high end or every stylist at the low end. Pick something reasonable for a stylist and pay that salary, and then you pay employment taxes based on that number. So if it's $50,000 and you have $200,000 of income, then now you have $150,000 of income that you're not paying employment taxes on, which is it's significant. So you're saving significant amounts of money.
This is a lot of information and very, very smart things, and this is why having somebody like Eric as a CPA, because I don't even understand all of this. So I would expect my CPA to be able to tell me, hey, this is what we need to do, this is what I recommend, and this is why I recommend it, and I say, fine, let's do that, I trust you. So that's your expertise. So if you don't fully understand all of this, that's okay. You're not, that's fine if you don't understand it first pass, but having somebody that you trust to be able to guide you, super, super important.
Yeah, so the caveat with that is, of course, pay yourself a reasonable salary, and this is it's a tax planning strategy that's been under fire for a while. So the Trump administration has talked about making changes to it. The previous administration talked about making changes to it, but it has been the tax structure in our country for a long time.
So it's still working now.
A very long time.
Yeah.
It's a structure that works right now, and if you involve your CPA and keep them involved, then you'll be aware of any law changes. Just be cognizant that it's a structure that has been under fire from several previous presidents. It hasn't been changed, and it's currently the law of the land. So if you follow do what you're supposed to do, then you'll be fine. If you have questions, call someone. Call me. I'll talk to you on the phone. You can swing by the office. If you're somewhere else or you want to talk to somebody else, call them. Call someone that you know and trust. There's always going to be somebody that's willing to help you, because that's what they do. You cut hair. Do what you do,
and find somebody smarter than you in the areas that you need help in.
There are plenty of people smarter than me at everything that I don't do, right?
Most of you know, we have a salon suite business, but the answers, everything that I'm giving is just kind of generalized costs. So I would say on average for, what do we say, Lacey, about a 10 by 10 room, $250 a week is, I think, something reasonable to expect for rent. The deposit up front, a lot of times it'll be 1 to 2 weeks of rent. I would say, let's call it $350. That's what our deposit is, so we'll call it $350. That's a number that you can hang on to. You got to get your back bar and inventory and color, and I think if you give yourself a range between $1,000 and $1,500, I think you should be pretty safe with that. Keep in mind that those local reps, before you make the jump, if you reach out to local reps, there's tons of local reps, you can reach out to them. Their job is to schmooze you. Understand that. They are there to work with you. And so, for example, the reps would come to us and fill our color orders and things like that, and we didn't like paying shipping costs, and so she's like, you know what, in order to, thank you guys and to treat you well, I'll give you a free tube of cream bleach with every order. And so she would do that for us. When you're doing these big orders, ask, can you throw in extra capes? Can you throw in extra brushes? Can you throw in, a couple more back bar shampoos? They're happy to do that. You treat them well, and they're going to take care of you. Also, those reps too are a good source to have ongoing education classes. So that's really good. Okay, so color, back bar, inventory. You're going to need a mini salon license, and that's $60, right, Lacey? $60 for a mini?
Yes, mini salon license is $60.
Yes, you'll need that. And then filing an LLC, which if you go through a CPA would run about,
Say $1,000 on the high end for a simple LLC. The state filing fee is $300. You'll probably pay your CPA somewhere from 500 to in the neighborhood of $500 to $700. If you're at $1,000 to form an LLC, then it's a one-time cost and it's about $1,000. Think about it that way. One thing that you did mention was licensing and formation of LLCs. Is something that I wanted to talk about. There's two types of LLCs in Texas. The name of my company is Eric S. Smith CPA PLLC, and the P stands for professional. So certain LLCs that are required to have a state license have to form a professional LLC.
do we have to have one?
So that's a good question. The answer is no.
Okay, I didn't think so. I'm like,
So
well, we didn't have that.
stylists are not. So stylists are required to have a license.
Okay.
But stylists are not among the types of professions that are required to have a professional LLC. So in the state of Texas, you need an LLC, not a PLLC.
Okay, great.
So, if
I
that
have
comes
one
up.
question on that. So when you say the LLC is $300, what are all the other, I know you said there's a filing fee. Do you actually have to do it through somebody? Can you do it yourself?
You can do it yourself. So the state filing fee is $300. To file the form, you will pay the state $300. There's a credit card convenience fee for paying that amount online. So you wind up paying $308 and change to do it online with the Secretary of State directly. To do it yourself, you need to go to the SOS. You can Google SOS Direct, Secretary of State Direct. There's a website. You can go to the Secretary of State Direct website, set up an account, and do the filing yourself. Absolutely.
We filed for our LLC ourselves. All the LLCs that we've ever done, we filed for ourselves. So if you have no idea what you're doing and you don't have a Stevie Pie in your life, then you can have an Eric S. in your life, and they can take care of that for you. But it can be done. An LLC can be done on your own. So.
And I've given people information to help them do it on their own. So I've got a couple of emails that I can send. If you have a question, call me up, give me your email. I can send you the sort of bare bones information that you need to go and do it yourself if you wish to do it that way.
And so take the stylist aspect out of it, because I have a lot of other viewers, I think, that are just people who are interested in starting up their own businesses. A lot of this still applies as far as filing for an LLC, quarterly taxes, all of that CPA-wise is going to be the same deal, right?
You're going to pay taxes quarterly, in almost any structure.
Yes.
You should theoretically pay taxes quarterly.
Yeah.
We have some bad kids that don't. I'm not calling anybody out, so.
Oh, well, I understand, but it hits you at the end, and it's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling to get hit at the end of the year with.
So, but
that
if you're
number.
prepared for it, I mean, your credit card interest might be 10-12%, and you're paying 0.5% a month for underpayment penalty. So if you go, well, hey, keeping this cash
That's
here,
true. Makes more sense. If it's an educated decision, then perfect. But if it's an oh crap at the end of the year, not very smart.
So that's the thing. You have to be cognizant of what's coming. Don't do it accidentally. So if you're choosing not to make quarterly payments, then be aware of what you're choosing.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so that's the cost of the LLC. Lacey and I put our brains together and came up with a quick list of a little checklist. And how should we get this out to them? I don't want to read it and make them write it down. I don't know. Email me at askheather@thesalon.blue.
And I'll put a Word
And
document together.
anonymously, I don't care who you are, I'm not going to tell anybody, but I can send you this little list of a little checklist of getting your salon suite set up, the different things that you may need. Some things you may think of, some things may have slipped your mind. So this gives you an idea of what you need, but none of this is super expensive. If you go to a salon suite environment that provides a lot of the basic things, then you just kind of have to move in and have your retail and your tools, and you'll be good to go. So I think the big, scary tax, you know, you're not going to know how to run your own business. You're not going to know how to do your taxes. That's one of the things that some of the, you know, bigger salons kind of scare people with. Like, you'll have no idea what you're doing. And I wanted to debunk those fears.
Hey, you're going to be doing the same thing that you're doing right now.
Except somebody else is going to be doing it for you.
Right. You're going to be relying on other people to do things that you don't do right now.
Right.
So the week before I left my current firm, I looked around and went, look at all the things that I don't do. I don't deal with the trash every day. I don't clean the kitchen. I don't do any of these things. What do I do? And my first day in my executive suite, somebody showed up at 6:30 and took out my trash. And I went, wow, that's brilliant. I don't have to do that because...
You have to take out your own trash in most salon suites. Some of them maybe have trash services. Lacey, that's a really good idea.
Trash
Maybe.
service?
I don't know. Maybe somehow we can think.
Back service would be better.
Yes, but there's a lot of things in having, an executive suite, salon suite environment that takes care of all of those common area things.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take care of your suite, but like, for example, for our salon suites, our cleaning crew offers services and packages so that you don't even have to clean your own suite. You can have a cleaning crew come in and take care of all of that, because maybe in the beginning you save some money, but if you're not a fantastic detailed cleaner, don't worry about it. Ciro and his crew will take care of it for you if you're with us. So there's ways around everything so that you can continue to focus on what you do best. So one other really important thing is having a software to be able to run your business. Now, like I said in one of my other videos, I was old school. I did everything pen and paper. Everybody texted me, called me, whatever. That worked out for me. That was fine. But there are so many great companies. Our business is partners with a company, Shore.com, SHORE.com. We'll put that in the show notes as well. But they do websites. They build apps for you. They do online. You can do online booking for your guests. They send automatic reminders. You can do sales through their app. I mean, you definitely want to have an app that's easy to use. You want to get very familiar with it before you leave and before you start your own business. You want to understand your software to be ready to kind of switch over to it. So there's a ton of stuff available. So look into that and decide which software you're going to go with and be ready to use that. Lacey, what else?
Does that cover point of sale stuff too? Should
Yes.
we talk about that?
Yes, they do inventory, they do websites, they do
That's
booking.
fabulous.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So to the extent you can simplify that, if you've got a single solution, I agree that that's the best way to go.
That's like a one-stop
It's,
shop right there.
For sure. And they're excellent. They do one-on-one. Shore.com does one-on-one calls with you. They'll teach you how to set everything up. They take really good care of you. Obviously, I'm an experienced snob, so I want somebody who's going to take care of me and going to make my experience great, and Shore.com blew me away. So that's why we work with them, and we make it available to our members to use if they want at a discounted rate. But they're excellent.
She's not a snob. She's drinking Pinot from Colorado.
Oh, does that make me not a snob? I thought my $2.99.
That makes you not a snob. So
Excellent.
there you go.
Lacey, anything else?
I think that you covered all bases.
Is there anything else you can think of?
Gosh, I think we're pretty well covered. I mean, so there could be questions. Feel free to call. Email Eric at ericsmithcpa.com. Simple email.
Put all that in the show notes.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
EricSmithCPA.com.
ericsmithcpa.com.
That's the most generic name I may have ever heard.
It's
How many
the
Eric
best.
Smiths are there?
So, yeah.
It's very easy. At least people
Yeah.
know how to spell it. Almost.
Totally. There's
When
not
I-
a K, right?
No,
No.
it's a C.
Even better.
I wanted to give you a K, but it's not a K. It's a C.
When I was a child, I used to lament that my name was so boring. I remember being 6, 7, 8 years old and reading. So I loved American Indian history and stuff like that when I was a kid. And I used to ask my mom, why didn't you give me a really cool name like Crazy Horse or something?
Whoa.
I love it. Not Eric
Crazy
Smith.
horse.
Not Eric
Wait,
Smith.
but Pocahontas' boyfriend, John Smith?
John
Is that his
Smith?
name? I mean,
So-
Maybe that's where she got that.
Something
Crazy
Eric-
horse, Eric Smith. Hey.
Something.
Could've
I love it. Well, thank you so much. This was so much good information. Share it. with all your stylist friends, with all your business friends. What, Lacey?
Oh, I was just gonna say, don't forget to email if you want that information sheet.
Oh yes, ask Heather at thesalon.blue. It'll be in the show notes. Any other questions that you have for me, of course, AMA, ask me anything, beauty, life, relationship, business, all about that. And also the cheat sheet or list of starting your own salon suite, all of the things that we've thought of that you may need. And Eric's here to help. Excellent. So thank you so much, and I will see you actually after this. I'm going to wipe the red wine off my teeth, and we will do the video that I promised you, which will probably come out before this, about my Disney wrap-up and some of my drugstore favorites, and a few other little goodies. So, bye!